and how you thought that was important and maybe some of our language, and kind of talk about that before we proceed?
That would be a good idea. You had asked about reinserting section 23 and 24 with some changes in wording, and we have looked at those sections with the changes, and at this time we're not willing to accept adding those back in. We're going to hold the Senate position on 23 and 24 being stricken.
Can you explain your thought process? Excuse me, can you explain your thought process on that? Just kind of curiosity.
The committee, meaning the Ag Natural Resources, the full committee, we learned that the department's really not ready to go down this road at this time. We thought, well, we could address it in the future if the department does feel like they are ready to start inspecting charging stations or testing charging stations. Additionally, one of our members is a big EV, electric vehicle fan, and her comment was, well, when I charge my vehicle tells how much of a charge is coming in. And so it was just the position of the committee to strip out 23 and 24 at this time, thinking that it's not an urgency.
All right. Hang on. We'll discuss on our end. All right, Mr. Chairman, let us, we'll take that under advisement for right now. Let us proceed with our amendment and add the contents of House Bill 2111. Is that correct? That's the number. You'll find it on page 2. And so what this was passed in the House substantially. I don't know exactly the exact vote total was, but I believe we had over 100. This expands it's a Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, hence CREP, from 40 to 60,000 acres. This is primarily focused on really about 4 key counties. And so while it is available for every county, but really the focus is a lot in central Kansas, and looking at some water, because of this, some water savings could be found, especially around the Quivira situation that we've dealt with from the federal standpoint. And so our language that came from this bill is also a compromise, talking with stakeholders and others. Some wanted, more acres, less acres. Talk to the commodity groups. There's a concern, or we're going to lose more acres. But we look at this as something that's a good complement to some of the water issues. So since there was really no other vehicle, we'd like to put that in there.
We have looked at 2111, and I did have a couple questions, Mr. Chairman, for you. I'll start with the easy one. And I'm looking at the actual bill, not necessarily the amendment, which of course is the same as the amendment. But on page 3, line 1, where it talks about, I'm going to back up, it on page 2, it says the division shall administer all CREPs in Kansas, subject to the following criteria, and then it lists 1, 2, and then number 3, no whole field enrollment shall be accepted into a CREP established for water quality purposes. What is a whole field? Do you know what the definition is in statute, or why? And I realize this is existing language, this is current law, but these are the kinds of questions
Sure.
that the committee asks when we have a hearing.
Mr. Hamilton, my assumption is that typically, again, this is kind of ancillary, and in production agriculture, you would have portions. You may have pivot corners, other type things, rather than, say, a well designed through a whole field. Is that, I'm kind of looking off into the heavens to get an answer. So when we talk about whole field, this would be, say, 160 acres rather than, say, 20 acres on a corner, pivot corner, or something that's highly erodible.
That was my thought in thinking the region I live.
Yes.
A whole field might be 20 acres, 40 acres.
Absolutely,
And so-
but I believe, sorry, Mr. Chairman, where you live, your soil is much different than where I live.
Right, but I didn't know if there were whole fields that would be, I just didn't understand why a whole field could not be enrolled in a CREP.
I believe it can be, but as it says, no whole field enrollments shall be accepted into the CREP established for water quality purposes. So I think, I believe, and again, this is just from kind of past knowledge, that I think in some of those areas, I think they're looking at mass acreages, like the Conservation Reserve Program, that you could put thousands of acres into one contract. This is a bit of a different type program.
Yeah, it's not, Mr. Chairman, something to be contentious, or other than just I didn't know what whole field was, and I had asked a couple, several people, and everyone kind of, I don't know, and I said, well, that gives me a good question to ask Chairman Rogers. What but that is current language. But
Yes.
a concern of mine in reading through this, the acreage is moved from 40,000 in the state to 60,000 in the state, but the 25% per county remains in. Currently, 25% of 40,000 is 10,000 acres. 25% of 60,000 is 15,000 acres, so it increases it by 5,000. Is there a reason why the percentage wasn't adjusted accordingly? Because I'm thinking that that would be my preference, would be to adjust the percentages down. Leave the 60,000, that's not an issue, but currently one county could have up to 25% of the total 60,000. And so I was thinking, if we're going from one county having 10,000, which my understanding is there aren't any counties that have 10,000, why would we even bump it to 15,000?
I think it goes back, Mr. Chairman, I think it goes back to what we talked about before, as far as this is available, but probably the ones that are going to be targeted most are places in around the Lakin area, right west of Garden City. There's some that are already enrolled there. And again, around Quivira and that watershed district. And so those are primarily where they're already accepted. And so our assumption is that those would be the counties that will really take it up, as far as to have new counties, especially probably in the eastern part of the state, will not do it. This is one that really is kind of highly specialized, if you will, that it's not something like the Conservation Reserve Program from the federal government that is available for everyone, because that's a different kind of a niche.
Just a moment, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, that was the only change that we saw. If this bill had gone through the committee process on our side, I assure you it would be different than we're seeing it right now. The committee is pretty thorough in going through every word of a bill, particularly one of our members who is not here, but a friend of all of us, but in any event. So we're willing to say, yes, let's put 2111 into 255, but drop the percentage, the maximum percentage for a county, one county, to 20% rather than 25, which it still bumps them up from 10,000 to 12,500.
Okay. I want to, Josh McGinn here from the Department of Agriculture, because I want to make sure I didn't misspeak. So, Josh, if you would make sure as we're talking here on the percentages, if you come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record, to make sure as we look at these numbers, and we have the stakeholders too, but I want you to kind of speak on kind of how we got to this point and what this really means so we both understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Josh McGinn, Assistant Secretary, Kansas Department of Agriculture. In the House, there was that discussion about whether there should be a lower limit with the new higher statewide cap. There was a concern that you could have too much enrolled in 1 year. So we agreed to the 1,600 in 1 year in one county, because I think that gets more to that concern. The counties have varying levels of acres enrolled in CREP. One is at 9,000. There are some that have fewer than 1,000. So those counties that have less acres may not have as many acres to enroll, or they could enroll a lot of acres in 1 year. And I thought that got more to the concern from one of our stakeholders. But the other concern was with whether it would be a 20% or 25% cap. We had added an amendment to address that concern. So it's up to the committee whether you include that and another amendment or just include the one that was added by the committee to limit that yearly annual increase. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, after hearing that, do you want to make that change?
I don't have any, I understood that because I see that it was 1,600 per year max. And so, yes, because of the fact that we are moving up significantly, and as we just heard, there's one county that has 9,000, so they're not even at the 10,000. So if we go to 12,500, that's 3,500 acres. So that would be our position, Mr. Chairman. So we'll just make that as an offer and see what the House thinks.
Okay. Which one?
Assistant Secretary Lynn.
Okay. Josh, come back up here. Representative Featherston's question to make sure.
Okay, this is how I'm reading it. You tell me if I've gone astray. I think we're raising the total acreage to 60,000 and that 60,000 shall not exceed 25% of the county. So it's not like 25% of 60,000. It's we're raising it, but it can't encompass more than 25% of the county.
Thank you. My understanding is that it is that not more than 25% of 60,000 can be located in any one county. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, again, you wanted it at 20, keep it at 20? Correct.
To change it to 20.
Yes.
Current
Or,
law
I'm
is
sorry.
25%. So
Right, and that is,
on page 2, line 41, the 25%. I think that was the only place. Of course, I would let revisers tell us if it's needed changed anywhere else, but that was the only place I saw. Okay.
Kyle, is that correct then?
Yes, that's the only place in the bill where that percentage is.
And so 20 is what, we'll agree to that. We'll agree to that, and so do you agree with 2111 as with that change? All right, and we will also accept your, we'll take out section 20, wrong thing. 22 and 23, correct?
23 and 24.
23 and 24, sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to remove a section that should stay in.
All right. Okay. Okay. I think we're in agreement then?
We're good on our side, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
and I
so we have a
appreciate-
deal?
Just a moment.
Is that right? Hang on here.
Just a moment.
Yep.
He was asking about the 1,600. We're fine with that
Okay.
maximum per year.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
That's fine.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. I think we're good to move forward with 2255.
Okay, so since they're House bills, you will take them up first, is that correct?
I never can keep track.
I
on
can't
who-
either. Is that right?
Yes,
Think
we
so.
will.
All right. Please
Thank
do
you.
them quickly. No, I know. No. All right. Thanks again for your indulgence, and I think we did some good things, and we'll see if next year we have to go back and talk EVs. I don't know, but no, we're good.
That's exactly right. I think
Yep,
next
and that's
year.
fine.
Okay, thank you,
You
Mr.
bet.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.